So we're going to do question and answer. Usually we do this the first Thursday, but I was gone last Thursday, and Miss Macy's talking about retreat, right? So I'll ask the first question. How is Miss Macy's talking about retreat? Who heard it? Yep. It was amazing, right? Great. So this week, the question and answer, this is the standard disclaimer. None of my answers, as far as I know, are written in stone anywhere. This is not the answer. This is not scripture or gospel. This is just the best answer I've got for you today. If you ask me in 10 more years, I'll give you a significantly better answer. I know this because 10 years ago, my answers were garbage, and now they seem amazing. But 10 years from now, my answers today are going to seem like garbage, and that's fine. It's just the way that it goes. It's life. So ask me any question about meditation or practice or something tangentially related, forgiveness or friendship or whatever, and I'll do my best. And if you have questions on Instagram, you can type them in and I might see them. And if you've got questions on Zoom, you can click the button or raise your hand and you can ask me there too. So any questions? Kaya.
The question is about, I guess, feeling overwhelmed when there's like a lot of, like, whether it's a lot of techniques or stuff, or even just stepping into leadership positions. There's a tendency. I've had the opportunity in many parts of my life, and it's sort of like just feeling like I have to know everything, and I obviously don't, or knowing what I have to teach.
Mm-hmm.
You're sort of the opposite, where you're stepping back a little.
Yeah, see you later. Yeah, I got a couple of great things for you on being overwhelmed. And first of all, I think that, so I heard somebody say this, it was probably at a landmark thing that I did at some point, the first time that I heard this, but it's a phrase that you've heard in different versions, or you've heard different versions of it. It's, I don't need less on my plate, I need a bigger plate. So this gives you the feeling and the mindset of like, I'm stepping into this and I can handle more. Versus when I'm feeling overwhelmed, it feels like my plate is the same size as it always has been, or it's shrinking and there's more and more stuff being piled up on it. And you're like, you know, I have never worked as a waiter and I don't know how any of that works, but when I see people carrying like multiple plates and they'll pile multiple plates on and they leave the silverware in between, I'm so stressed out by all of this. And I know that they've got it because they've been doing it for so long, and I'm positive that this is something that you would also be really good at, Kaya. But the feeling of this is all very tenuous and it could all fall apart at any moment is something that we want to recognize and accept when it is, you know, useful to us, but generally speaking, not try to dwell on that. So if we're dwelling in this feeling of being overwhelmed, that kind of leaves us feeling powerless. And a feeling of powerlessness is not helpful when we have more stuff to do. So try to have that mindset of, I need a bigger plate being me kind of stepping into it. I'm going to become bigger. And another kind of similar saying is, God only throws, or the universe only throws stuff at you that they know that you can handle. So if you're getting these challenges thrown at you and you're getting these bigger opportunities, it's because someone or something or the whole universe knows that you can handle it. So handle it. And the feeling of overwhelmed is just like a feeling. It doesn't mean that it's true, and it doesn't mean that it's something that you have to act from. You can just say like, oh, that's an interesting thought that I just had. I'm just going to set that aside because I got work to do. In some cases, the feeling of being overwhelmed is not only justified, it's something that you really need to listen to and recognize, like, this is actually me in a position where it is bad for my mental or emotional health. And I actually do need to step back. So for me in the dojo right now, I don't feel like it's bad for my mental or emotional health to be teaching all the classes yet, but it certainly will be when I've slept 2 hours a week and I'm like, can't even brush my own teeth, let alone teach a class filled with children or large children that are all about to get hurt. I had this thought as I was watching Sam and Andrew teach earlier, and classes are going really great, but every once in a while I need to step out and yell at them and be like, you need to ask yourself this question. I'm about to do this thing. What can go wrong? What's the worst thing that could happen right now? Now, that's like, if you're like me, you're the opposite of feeling overwhelmed. You feel maybe overly confident in life. And you're like, I can handle everything. Just ask Grace. She's like, why aren't you more stressed about this? Why aren't you watching more like birthing videos and all this stuff? And I'm just like, I know that I can handle this. It's going to be great. We're going to do a great job together. We need to ask the question sometimes, how can this go wrong? Or what is the worst thing that could happen? And all of this within balance, right? So if you are feeling overwhelmed, you don't need to ask yourself that question, really. You need to ask yourself, how can I just get a bigger plate? How can I step into this? And recognize, I think, this subtle mindset shift of thinking like, this must mean that I'm ready for this. And then just prove it to yourself. Keep meditating, keep breathing. Hudson.
So I have a question in a similar vein. In a lot of the like martial arts movies or whatever, the classic thing is like the one evil student asks for something and he's not ready for it, but he feels like he's ready. And then
Is there a specific martial arts movie that you're thinking of right now?
just kind of there, like,
It is a trope. The evil student who tries, they're like a who's the devil? Who's the devil? What's the devil's name? Lucifer, right? This is like a Lucifer thing, right? Didn't he like he got too big for his britches and then ended up, that's the same thing with the students. This is a common thing in religions and myths and martial arts movies. Go ahead.
And so I was asking myself, when am I asking for too much or asking for more, versus recognizing when I feel like I'm ready to do something more challenging? And how do I gauge if I'm pushing the boundaries inappropriately or if I'm trying to better myself?
Yeah, this is a great question. In martial arts and in life. So hit me again with the main question. How do I know when I am, I got the second part was appropriately challenging myself versus pushing boundaries. And are you talking about, I'll just take it, I got it. So it could be I'm pushing boundaries for myself in a way that's unsafe for what I can actually handle physically or emotionally or time-wise in life or whatever. It could be that what you're asking is like for the etiquette in the dojo or the way that our practice is kind of set up. And there is, an etiquette and like a hierarchy that serves a purpose. And how do I know if I'm kind of overstepping my bounds in that way? And in the first way, I'm trying to get past my actual physical or emotional or whatever limitations in a way that could be dangerous no matter what. In the second one, it's like I'm kind of stepping on toes or overstepping in a way where even though maybe I can physically handle it or mentally handle it, there's going to be some kind of retribution you're going to get smote. Someone's going to get you. Smitten. It's not that. And how do I know if I'm doing one of those things? And those are kind of distinct things, right? Versus I'm doing it in a way that's appropriate. And I would say for the second one, if what you're concerned about is not, retribution from my body and my limitations, but from the etiquette in the dojo or from me or whatever, this is very simple. You can ask, right? And then you will know if it's something that's appropriate for you to do. And there's a way to do this. I've got an example that is tangentially related to this. This is one of my favorite moments back in the dojo in Michigan with my Sifu. It was his birthday. And the students kind of knew that it was his birthday, but they also know Sifu Brown is a very serious, not to be messed with kind of Sifu. And if you wish him happy birthday in class, you're going to get something terrible is going to happen to you. So this student, knowing this, raised his hand at the end of class and he said, Sifu, what's the etiquette on wishing you happy birthday? And I was like, oh, this is this is a genius right here that just asked this question. So if you ask so what some people do is they think they're being sneaky and they say, Sifu, when can I start learning, the bow form in Tai Chi or something like that? And what you really need to do is be more sneaky than that and say, Sifu, I just want to make sure that I'm following the etiquette. I don't know if I'm supposed to ask this or not. I don't know anything. Please tell me if I'm out of bounds. But when do people start learning the bow form? I'm in no rush. It's the same thing with testing, right? People ask me, I'm sure that one of you asked me at some point in your practice about, when am I supposed to take the white sash test? And you meant it totally innocently. You weren't like, I think I'm ready for this, although maybe some of you were. Really, what you say is, I don't know how any of this works. Please forgive me if this is out of bounds or bad etiquette, but how does the testing work? Something like that. And so find a way to word it like that. That's for the etiquette. Now, I'm going to be a little bit more lenient, and that's probably to a fault for me, but you can just be reasonable and be honest with yourself and honest with me, and you won't get any trouble with me. As far as knowing if you're trying to do something that's a challenge for yourself or you're overstepping, that is a little bit trickier, but it is also quite obvious when you are overstepping your physical boundaries because your body tells you immediately. And then what you have to do is just simply listen to your body. And some of us are not great at that. I got a great student watching on Zoom right now who really struggles with that, listening to the body telling her when to stop, and she's getting better at it. As she said today, I'm not 20 anymore. How old are you? 19. So you're not even 20 yet. So you got the other problem. You're too young and too springy still. It's going to be less obvious for you when you've broken through your limitations in a bad way, right? You've got, the limit serves a purpose. And the purpose is to give you something to push up against and either recognize this is as far as we go, right? That's like the window. You get up to the window and you recognize I should not go any further than this because I'll crash through the window and fall in the street and get seriously hurt or die. And then you've got other things that are not like a window or a wall. It's a little bit more flexible, and those are things for you to push against. And then there are things that are like, I'm in a field and there's a random waist-high wall that goes down the field here. And, if we're not assuming that somebody is waiting on the other side to try to shoot me for getting into their property, then I'd say this is something that I can kind of easily jump over, and there's this whole other pasture here for me to explore. A lot of times people find that little waist-high wall and they think, well, I'm obviously not supposed to go over there. I'm not even going to try. And as long as you know that this is something that is, what's over there is safe, then go for it. There's a height at which this wall becomes nearly insurmountable, and if you try to climb over it and you fall down on the other side, you're going to be dead. So, and there are, waist-high walls that have signs that say private property, no trespassing, trespassers will be shot on sight. And you shouldn't go over those walls either. But if it's like, this wall seems like something that I can get over, or it's very springy, this analogy has gone way out of hand, but you get the idea. There are boundaries that are meant to be broken through. And it's that question. How do I recognize those versus the obvious ones? The obvious ones being this hurts right away and I shouldn't be doing it. So that's part of life and martial arts. It's part of our practice is starting to recognize that. So I think a good way to do it is to really get in touch with your ego. Am I trying to do this for ego's sake? Is it my ego, my small self, trying to propel me in this direction? Is it a voice that says you don't have to listen to those people, just do it anyways? Is it a voice that says I gotta be better than XYZ person? Or is it, more curiosity or, kind of like the same idea as having a bigger plate? It's like is this something that is me expanding my true self, not letting my small self be in charge and trying to push things in a way that's unsafe? It is difficult to discern the difference between those things, but I think an easy way to do it, in some cases at least, to recognize like who's driving the car right now. Is it the ego, the small self? Is it the little voice trying to get you to challenge things just to challenge things? Just to try to prove to yourself or somebody else? Or is it your higher self, your truer self, trying to become bigger and more and expansive? And you can kind of tell because there's like less resistance with the second one. The first one feels like lots of resistance, and it feels like, oh, I gotta, fight against myself or somebody else. And the second one, it just feels a little bit more natural. Try that. Julia.
So this is sort of a half-baked question. I can't get much louder because it's really late here.
That's fine.
Okay, it's not like completely a question. That's how half-baked it is. Just in this period of my life, I'm experiencing a lot of moments of shame, and a lot of people in my life right now that I'm talking to, shame is coming up for them a lot as well. And I wanted to, start a conversation about using our practice to help heal feelings of shame that come up for us.
You got it. I was thinking about this earlier today. You must be reading my mind. So, what was I thinking about earlier today? And then I'm gonna bring it to what you're saying. There was somebody that I was thinking of, and I can't remember who it was or what the situation was, but I was thinking this person should kind of feel ashamed of themselves, or I was thinking if I had done this, I would feel ashamed. I would feel shame. And then I thought, well, that's a bad thing about myself. I never want to feel shame. And then I thought, well, actually, shame is kind of useful. It teaches us something about ourselves, whether it be a limitation that maybe we went past, or it's something that we want to be able to listen to. And I thought, I guess this is kind of a useful thing that I do when I feel ashamed of doing something really dumb and everybody saw it. And of course, this is really what shame is about, is trying to help us fit in and not feel ostracized. If we do something so dumb that we get kicked out of our village or society and they, put us in jail or put us on an island or whatever, we're more likely to die. So there's a reason shame feels so bad and feels so visceral and like it is kind of life or death sometimes, and it's because it's meant to help us survive. So this is, the first part of my answer is similar to what I said with Kaya's, which is like, you want to allow yourself to recognize that as something that's not all bad and accept when it's useful. Accept it when it is something that, hear what it's telling you. So if shame is telling us this is something that I really shouldn't have done and I should really apologize or get things right with this person, okay, then if you do that, it very well may be that the shame just disappears in that moment. That's not always what happens. Sometimes you'll do a thing, and I'm sure that some of you have experienced the same things that I've experienced, where you did something really dumb, and it maybe wasn't like actually dangerous or truly impactful. You just feel so dumb about it even now, even though you did it when you were a kid, and you keep thinking about it, and you have to keep reminding yourself that this is a thing that actually doesn't impact anybody. I'm probably the only person thinking about it and feeling ashamed of it. So, take that for what it is. But if you can recognize the utility of shame, just like the utility of feeling overwhelmed or whatever, then you can start to play with it a little bit. You can recognize sometimes that it's not actually doing you any good. like when you are just, wallowing in your shame for a very long period of time and it's actually not serving you, it's not helping you with anything. All it does is make you feel like you're powerless. Then it's time to be able to let it go. And again, sometimes it's I'm doing something about it. So your question about what our practice teaches us, for meditation, all of this stuff that comes up for us, feeling overwhelmed, shame, whatever the emotion is, excitement, all that, it is something that we are more in tune with because we're more in tune with our thoughts and our internal experience. And that's the first step, is recognizing it, right? What is this feeling? This is how I feel. I remember the last time I felt this is because I was kind of ashamed of something. So that's probably what this is. So where's that coming from and what do I need to clean up? If we never recognize it in the first place and we just walk around with this like gross feeling, then it can be kind of tricky to deal with. So recognizing it. I think that our practice of being great partners in the dojo is infinitely useful. And again, shame very often comes into play when it is with other people, right? If nobody saw the thing that you did, you might not feel ashamed of it. Maybe you do, but it's truly like when lots of people know about it or somebody that you care about knows about it, that's when it starts to really stick. So being a great partner, let's say that you come into the dojo and you're bowing in and you're about to work with somebody and you remember, the last time I worked with this person, they punched me a little bit too hard. And so you start to spar with them and you're just like wincing every time they throw a punch, even though they're not touching you. Well, it's kind of the same thing on the other end. You might recognize that, what you did the last time. Wow, I'm very fuzzy. Hello, camera. Okay, hi. So you might recognize that this person's kind of holding on to baggage with you, and you might need to clear that up. So being a great partner often starts and ends with like a clear, clean slate. And it might mean that I need to, apologize for something that happened last time. Usually in the dojo, not a lot happens that we have to apologize for, but some version of it. I realized that last time I was teaching you Tai Chi, I messed up this detail on cloud hands or whatever. And so you can clear that up with them. And it's usually, again, something that's kind of living in your own head. You recognize that this is something that you want to clear up, and whether or not the other person needs to hear it, sometimes you feel like it's best to go ahead and get out with it. It could be that, you're in class working with people and you just feel like just ashamed generally of like how, you were in this class. It was just a bad class. And so you need to, just for yourself, without even saying anything to anybody else, just let that go. So a big part of being a great partner in the dojo and in life is just letting go of that baggage and just kind of being here now with what is right in front of me. In this moment, there is no real room for shame or feeling overwhelmed or anger or anxiety or any of these things, right? In this moment, all there is this breath or this posture or this punch, or there's only room for me to see what my partner's doing so I can get out of the way. And if you take that too far and you're just ignoring things that are piling up, that's no good. But recognizing that if I just stay totally, fully present, and I'm present to what's going on with the other person, I'm present to what's going on with me right now, then a lot of the other stuff just kind of disappears. We're not forcing it out, right? A lot of time our reaction to feeling shame is being ashamed of feeling shame, right? Like when you're meditating, this is a very common experience, you have a thought and then you start having lots of thoughts about that thought. You're like, I had this thought, oh, this is a good thought, I'm going to keep happening. Or I'm supposed to be meditating, I'm not supposed to be having any thoughts at all, and then you go on this other tangent that takes the rest of the meditation, and then Sifu rings the bell and you're like, that was meditation? I was just sitting there thinking about how I was thinking the entire time. So part of meditation kind of allows us to get a little bit of space, create that clearing, let things go, to become like an observer. We are observing our thoughts and recognizing that this thought is not me. This thought is just a thought. It's just there kind of rattling around in my head, but it's not actually me. And this shame that I feel, it's not me. I can use it. I can feel it. And if there's something that I need to do about it, I'll do something about it. But ultimately, the shame doesn't really mean anything about me. And that's a really useful and I think super powerful thing about our meditation is getting that ability to just like step back. I used to describe it like, and some of you that don't play video games won't get this reference, but you're playing a third. I don't like the first person video games where you like all you see is the screen and all the little people that you're trying to shoot or whatever. I like the third person where you see your little guy or gal like running around, and it just like I like seeing how that like character is moving around and doing all that stuff. And that's kind of what meditation is. It's like we zoom out and we see, oh, all these thoughts I'm having and these emotions and all that is just my little avatar like running through life and really having a very dramatic, entertaining time of it. Like they're getting shot at and they're like getting into arguments with people and they're having all these fun thoughts, and that's just a little thing that I get to observe, and isn't that interesting? And then when I'm done with it, I can just be like, all right, I'm done with that. Just like you can just turn off the video game or turn off the TV and just like be there. This is kind of what meditation is. The ability to observe and then sometimes be able to just let that go, let that little apparition go off and live its life, and then we can just sit and be here in the present. So try that. Sit comfortably. So a review of posture. You can sit seiza or cross-legged. Just make sure that your knees are not sticking high up above your hips, because then your legs will fall asleep, or you'll get those painful pins and needles. So knees even with or below the hips. Your hands are upturned at the hips. They can be together or separate, but you don't want to be sliding down because that's going to start to mess with your posture. So with your hands here, your shoulders are rolled back and relaxed. Your chin is parallel to the ground. And you're going to try to maintain that solid posture without moving. If you need to move, if you absolutely must move, do it quickly and quietly and just return back to this position. But recognize any itch or stretch or whatever you do is kind of like resetting your meditation. It shakes everything up. You want to be able to sit as still as possible for as long as possible. Close eyes. Your eyes are upturned gently. If you feel like you're getting a headache when you're meditating, it's very likely that your eyes are actually crossed. So we're not looking for that. We're just looking for a gentle raising up of the eyes. And you can think of it like you're looking at the point between your eyebrows, kind of on the center of your forehead, or even within your skull, just a slightly raising up position. So that helps to associate this position with a raised consciousness rather than the everyday consciousness where your eyes are straight or ahead, or the sleeping consciousness when your eyes are dropped down. And then from here, we'll take a couple of deep breaths together. Start with all the breath out, breathing in through the nose. Hold for a few seconds at the top, and then breathe out. In from the belly. Hold. Out. Exhale can go through the nose or the mouth. Again, in. Hold. Out. In a little bit slower, a little bit deeper. Hold a little bit longer. Out. Last breath in. Hold. And finish with a double exhalation. Just let your breath come in by itself and let it go out by itself. So you've already primed the breath and you've primed your mind to be relaxed and in the present. You want to just observe the breath, just like you observe the thoughts. We're not attached to the breath. It's got to come and go. And we're not attached to the thoughts. Just recognize the thought and release it. Just continue returning your awareness to the breath. Just hold that breath in your mind and continue returning as many times as you need to throughout the meditation.